Welcome to Things You Don't Know. Today, we're tracing something that you probably use almost every day from early times, ancient times, way before you were even a twinkle in your daddy's eye, right up through today. Talking about writing implements from early reed pens and quills through steel nibs, fountain pens, which are actually kind of fun to write with. It did that. Pencils and ballpoint pens. We'll also address handedness, right versus left, and the question of whether penmanship has deteriorated. So stay tuned.
That's exactly right. And I'm going to focus on things like mechanics, how each tool moves ink or graphite to paper, what problems are solved, and what trade-offs it introduced, especially smudging, durability, and writing pressure. Before modern pens, the core model was a diff tool. A reed pen or quill holds a small amount of liquid ink on a nib, needs frequent re-inking. The nib shape determines line variation, broad edge or pointed tip, and that influences handwriting styles.
So, what you're saying here is that the quill, or with the nib, if you turn it a certain way, you either get a thin line or a broad line, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So a well-known example of all this is something called a column. It's a cut reed pen with a long history in, particularly in Arabic calligraphy traditions. It's shaped from reed and cut to form a nib and ink channel.
Mechanically, that's simple and effective. Ink clings by surface tension, and the writer controls flow by angle, pressure, and speed.
In Europe, the quill pen became a primary tool for manuscript writing for centuries. It could be cut and recut to maintain a fine point and used for both text and detailed illustration. So let's move a little further. Writing tools operated within systems, inks, paper, or parchment, and training. Early writing manuals and copybooks were built around teaching letter forms and also the practical skills of making ink and maintaining a writing point.
And that really does matter because the tool and the training, they're linked. A quill is highly responsive, but it requires maintenance and consistent technique. The amount of dipping and the drying time of ink's shape, writing speed, and workflow. Now, let's talk about
Pencils?
different writing technology. Yes, pencils.
Yeah.
They solve a different problem because they don't use liquid ink. They deposit graphite particles onto paper, and that tends to make them more forgiving and more adaptable to drafting and learning, especially because marks can be erased.
Yippers. You can make a boo boo and erase it and do it again, and you're fine.
And it's like nothing ever happened.
Yeah. Historically, a key milestone was discovery of a high quality graphite deposit in Borrowdale, England in 1564, a couple of days ago.
Yeah, it's been a minute back, hadn't it?
Yeah, that influenced the development of the modern pencil.
From a user standpoint, yeah, pencils, they can still smudge. But the good thing is They avoid ink spills and drying issues. They also allow lighter incremental marks, useful for drawing and planning.
Exactly. And you mentioned, Chandler, the drying process. When they were using quills, guess what? You didn't just write the page and then just put another piece of paper on top and write the next page. No, 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 no. You had to let that page dry first, you know?
Yes, and that was very time consuming. It had to be.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've never had to do it, but yeah. In the 19th century, steel nibs began replacing quills. Encyclopedia Britannica credits John Mitchell of Birmingham with introducing a machine made steel pen point in around 1828 and notes that metal nibs largely displaced quills by the mid 18th century.
Mechanically, this improved durability and consistency. You still dip ink, but the writing point is more uniform and doesn't require constant reshaping. That made large scale use in schools and offices more practical.
Oh, yeah, because remember, they would have to continuously reshape the nib or the point of those quills, always having to cut it. Wow.
Yeah, and with pencils, all you have to do is just write and maybe erase a time or two, and then you'll be good.
And with what you're talking about, with the steel nibs on pens, you did not have to keep cutting them. You could just continue to use them because they were metal, you know?
Exactly. And you, like we said, you still dip the ink, but the whole drying process, the whole rigorous thing is not there.
So how did we get away from that dipping thing?
I don't know. Maybe it had something to do with the fountain pen.
Aha.
Yeah. Fountain pens are a step toward continuous writing without dipping. Aha. The key challenge there, though, is controlling ink flow so that it's steady, not a leak, and not starvation.
Yes, indeed. An important development was Lewis Edson Waterman's feed system in the early 1880s. The Smithsonian notes his 1884 patent and describes the feed controlling ink flow.
And for users, the fountain pens often require less downward pressure than ballpoints, and many people find them smoother. The trade offs including choice, drying time, and maintenance.
Like ink choice, you mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So ballpoint pens, you mentioned that. Well, ballpoint pens use a rotating ball that transfers ink to paper. Britannica describes the development history and notes that a key satisfactory model was patented by Lazio Biro.
Now, ballpoint pens became dominant because they're convenient and relatively clean. They generally write on everyday paper without special care. The trade-off is that many ballpoints require more pressure than fountain pens, which can affect fatigue and handwriting smoothness.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about handwriting, I want to talk about left-handed versus right-handed now.
Okay.
Yeah. In left to right writing systems like English, left-handed writers are more likely to move their hand over fresh writing. That raises smudge risk. With wet inks and graphite, it influences posture and paper angle.
Now, one study indexed on PubMed reported that about 51% of left handed young men used an inverted or hook like writing posture.
Posture isn't the only difference. In forensic and handwriting research, there has been stroke direction differences and slant tendency differences between left and right-handed writers.
Yeah, tool choices also interact with handedness. Fountain pens can be more challenging for some left handed writers due to slower drying inks and nib behavior when pushed rather than pulled. Practical guidance often emphasizes ink selection and paper angle to reduce smearing. Okay, one of the things that has been mentioned to me different times is that penmanship has deteriorated. And this is usually kind of been taken in two questions: the amount of handwriting instruction and the measured quality of handwriting over time.
And it's hard to answer the quality question broadly because the measures vary. Speed, legibility, cursive fluency, printing consistency, or fine motor control.
On instruction, the Common Core English Language Arts Standard document does not explicitly mention cursive handwriting. So, yeah, not cursive. And I've noticed that there's far more emphasis on not cursive handwriting. Separately, reporting indicates a growing number of US states have been reinstating some of those cursive requirements, which I think is a good thing in some ways because it is a lot faster and flows.
Well, I think it has its pros and its cons, Dr. Weaver.
Yes.
So, I would say that a careful conclusion here is that many people write less by hand because of typing and screens, and that can reduce fluency and or consistency. But deterioration depends on the definition and the group that's being measured currently. Now, I want to talk about why the doctor handwriting joke exists. Yeah, there's this old stereotype, and it persists because illegible handwriting in medicine historically carried major consequences. Prescriptions and clinical orders have to be read quickly and accurately.
Yeah. A review of the stereotype notes that doctors' handwriting is not consistently worse than other groups, and that work conditions, speed, technical language, and time pressure, it really can have an impact on illegibility.
Yes, it can, and regardless of whether doctors are uniquely illegible, the risk from illegible prescribing has been discussed in medical literature, including the role of handwriting in medication errors.
Yeah, I can just tell you from the years I spent in practice that one of the things that happens is you have to write fast. You don't have the time to take care with it. And that is a real issue.
And I'm sure the people that worked under you, I'm sure that you were very adamant that they had good penmanship if they were prescribing something for a patient.
Gotta say, no, I didn't harp on that too much because I was guilty of having kind of very hurried penmanship style. The operational burden is real. NCBI bookshelf chapter cites an Institute for Safe Medication Practices estimate that pharmacies and pharmacists make more than 150 million calls per year to clarify written prescriptions.
Wow, this definitely helps explain the shift towards type notes in the prescribing, partly to remove errors caused by illegible handwriting.
Yeah. And you mentioned e prescribing, and that is another one. Computers help us with that a great deal. So, from reed pens and quills to steel nubs, fountain pens, pencils, and ballpoints, each step changed the writing by trading off control, speed, cost, and reliability.
And for individuals, the best writing implement depends on the task, the paper, ink drying behavior, and sometimes handedness, particularly in left to right scripts.
Yes, indeed. Well, listen, this may not have been the most serious and impactful podcast that we've done, but I think it was very important because guess what? We encounter it every day, every day. Wouldn't you agree, Chandler?
I would definitely agree with that, Dr. Weaver.
So let's conclude this episode on writing implements. And we encourage you to come on back and see us again sometime soon.
Yeah, folks, don't wait for the ink to dry before you do that.
Bye for now.
Bye bye.